Piedmont High School in California has uncovered a varsity student fantasy slut league. Now, apparently some of the varsity athletes at the school have drafted what they consider fantasy sluts, and they engage in sexual activity, and then they document that sexual activity. Now, the school has discovered this. However, they say that they're unable to identify the people who are involved, which is a little sketchy. We have a local news report that explains more. Let's take a look.
The principal says his staff discovered a so-called fantasy slut league among students.
A fantasy slut league in which our female students, unbeknownst to most of them, are drafted as part of the league. Male students earn points for documented engagement in sexual activities with female students. According to the letter, school staff learned about this during a recent assembly about date rape prevention. An investigation was launched on campus, and they learned this has been going on for 5 to 6 years.
That's it's a pretty serious story, but how do you take it seriously with an intro like that?
In a fantasy slut league. All right, now look. So should they have called them sluts? Of course not. Should they have done it overall? Of course not. And it seems that the school is not taking it that seriously. Some parents are concerned about it. And so I get that concern, et cetera, right? But am I a bad guy for saying it's a little funny, or is that just 100,000,000% wrong? Like, because
I'm amused because I could have predicted this. Like, I saw this coming from a mile away. Of course you would think it's funny.
No,
but it's not funny when you get into the details and you find out that some of these kids felt pressured to engage in sexual activity. Some of them were induced by alcohol. They were given alcohol.
But in high school, have some people been induced into hooking up by alcohol before? Of course! That's what they do! It's not like this is because of the league that somebody thought, oh my God, if I get a girl drunk, she might be more likely to hook up with me. No, they kind of figured that out a couple of centuries ago.
But doesn't this go to the entire bullying issue? Because it's not just that they're sleeping with these girls and then documenting what they've done with them. It's the reputation of these girls, how they're talking about them behind their backs. I mean, we just had a girl commit suicide because they were slut-shaming her, Amanda Todd. Mm-hmm. And it's what happens as a result of this kind of behavior that I'm concerned about. So it sounds funny, like slut league, ha ha ha.
Now, I should amend what I'm saying in a couple of different ways. So, first of all, it's an interesting idea. I shouldn't say funny. It's an interesting idea. Like, and by the way, by fantasy sluts, they don't mean like sluts that do fantastic things in your fantasies. They mean like fantasy football, fantasy baseball, etc. So, if I was in high school and somebody came up with that idea, and I'm not, I'm a grown man. That's why I obviously find this unacceptable, right? But in high school, if somebody had said, oh my God, we got this idea, we're going to draft the different girls in the school, and we're going to try to figure out who had sex more, etc. I'm going to keep it real here. I'd be really surprised if I didn't think that that was a clever thing to do and to get involved in it, right? Mm-hmm. And now don't get me wrong, I wouldn't get involved like, I'd pressure the girls to have sex. I tried that, it didn't work. Okay, they didn't want to have sex with me, okay? So I'm keeping it real here, right? Now, on the other hand, the idea of calling them sluts, I've always despised. Mm-hmm. And then so, even when I was in high school, and I always thought it was the stupidest, the most counterproductive thing. You want the girls to sleep with you, why would you discourage them by calling them sluts? Even if you had the wrong motives like I did. Like I didn't have altruistic or moral motives. My motive was, they'd be more likely to sleep with us, right?
Right.
So, I'm not condoning this, and having it be public and having those girls know it is horrible. I get that. I just want to make clear that I'm not surprised that this would happen in a high school. I find it almost obvious. Like I'd be surprised if it didn't happen in any high school. Do you see what I'm saying?
The one part of this story that I think is a positive, I mean, the school doesn't seem like they're taking it too seriously, but the one great thing that's coming out of it is they are trying to battle this problem with education. So, they're pulling kids aside, they're talking to them about slut shaming and how, there are serious ramifications to that. But what I particularly like is, or I hope that they do, is they address the issue of girls being told that they're not popular unless they sleep with the boys, because that was another thing that was used as a way to convince the girls to sleep with the boys, right? Look, if you sleep with them, they're going to call you a slut. If you don't sleep with them, they're going to call you a prude. Let me tell you something. It's better to be called a prude than a slut. Because then they're going to go into detail about what they did with you. They're going to probably lie about some of the things that they've done with you. You're going to feel bad about it. Just don't get involved with douchey guys like this because you want to be popular.
Yeah. I've always thought that prude was the weakest insult in history.
Right.
Like, oh, you're a prude because you wouldn't sleep with me. Yeah. Okay, so I wouldn't sleep with you. So what? Like, I found that to be the most nonsensical insult ever, right?
But for some reason, it gets under, girls' skin.
Yeah, it does.
Like as if it's a legitimate insult or something.
Right. And so my last point on this is that, look, guys have been trying to sleep with girls almost forever. Okay. Of course. And they're in high school. They're going through puberty, etc. And they're going to try every trick in the book. They're calling you a prude, a slut, not popular, too popular, whatever. They put you in a league, not put you in a league, etc. So I guess part of what I'm saying is I actually don't disagree with the high school that much, that they're not super flipping out over it. If they sounded like a 3-alarm bell and shut down the school and, oh my God, we got to figure this thing out, we'll go to, DEFCON 4 or whatever, that might be an overreaction.
That is an overreaction, but here's the truth. The school discovered that this is happening. The school can identify the people who are involved in this, but for some reason they refuse to identify them. They're like,
That's true.
Sorry,
That's true.
we don't know who did it. We just know it exists. Really? Come on.
No, they're not trying. Believe me, if they wanted to identify them, they would try. And why are they not trying? It's probably because it's their best athletes. Keep it real.